Hey y'all, how's it going? It's Xander here. Just wanted to make a little bit of an update. It's been actually a lot of weeks since I last posted a video, and a lot has changed since then. So just kind of give you a little bit of update. I think my last video, it was my only video. It was just like an introduction to who I am, and like this is just like a channel for tracking my transition. So yeah, I think at that point I had come out to like a few people, and that number keeps adding up. Obviously, since I get things going, so the biggest one I came out to my parents. Well, my dad last week, so the beginning of last week. Been wanting to do it for a while, both of my parents, not just my dad, but I thought my mom would kind of shut down me telling my dad, so I decided to tell my dad first when my mom wasn't home. So I was like home for winter break, and I mean, it was good. There's just a lot of anxiety around that. So it was kind of funny because like it was just him and I at home when my sister was sleeping, but my mom wasn't home. And I just like it just like running through my head. I was so anxious. And like I kept trying to find opportunities to do it, and I don't know. So I essentially just followed him around until he was like, "Oh, I have to go outside and do some stuff," and I was like, "Wait, like, can I ask you a question?" And like I asked him, I was like, "Do you know what the word transgender means?" And he was like, "Yeah, I mean, yeah." And I was like, "Well, what do you think it means?" And he was like, "That you like want to change your gender or something, like blah blah blah." And I mean, like, it was interesting because he, like, obviously, I mean, not obviously, like, obviously knowing my father, I knew that he wasn't gonna, like, think that this was, like, awesome. So I was like, well, I asked him, I was like, "Do you think that's okay?" And he was like, "Well, like, I don't think it's right to mess with, like, nature and stuff like that," which, like, is not a really valid argument considering, like, all the shit we mess with nature anyway. But I was just like, okay, I'm not here to fight. So I was like, "Well, what if it was your kid?" And he was like, "Well, if it was my, like, kid, I wouldn't let it happen. But if it was my adult child, I would say, like, you make your own decisions." And I was like, "Well, do you consider me your adult child?" And he was like, "Yeah, I do." And we kind of talked I don't know, he was like, "I hope you know this is going to be hard. Like, this isn't going to be, like, a really easy road. You're going to lose a lot of people and blah, blah, blah." And I was just kind of like, I don't need those people. You know what I mean? Like, that's this kind of, like, big idea that I need 1 billion people around me to love me and shit. Like, I've learned a lot in the past, like, few years, sorry, about the difference between, like, family and chosen family, and, like, who is always going to be there for you. So, like, that kind of was like, whatever. And he interestingly said, like, "I don't know what advice to give you." And I was like, wasn't really coming for advice. So, I mean, that was interesting in the sense that maybe in some way he was trying to protect me. I don't know. I still have a lot of processing to do with that situation, but anyway, it happened, and, you know, he told me he still loves me, he's not gonna kick me out of the house, disown me, but I mean, he did say, like, I'll always be his daughter, which I have a feeling that'll be hard for him to kind of say when I'm sporting a beard or something, like, you know, and I'm looking a lot more masculine, so I don't know, it's in time, maybe he'll process it differently. And so that's kind of how that went. And so, like, I told him, like, I was just, like, really emotional, and I, like, needed to get out of the situation to process and decompress and because my house isn't a place where a lot of emotion can be expressed, and I needed time to process. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go to my Aunt Jamie's house, have a drink with her, blah, blah, blah. So, get in the car, and it's only like a 5-minute ride, but I called my girlfriend on the way, and I was like, it happened, and she, she told me she was proud of me and stuff, but I was just, hysterically crying, and, hyperventilating. I was having a full-blown anxiety attack, and, for a while, I was like, why is this happening? This was not the worst I could have imagined this happening. And I realized it was because it was years of anxiety just built up, and just kind of released in a matter of 10 minutes, which is just exhausting. So I was like, that made sense. So I called a couple more friends, and then I went to my Aunt Jamie's house, and, she was like, is everything okay? She had been in the loop. I told her I was going to tell them, so she was, kind of on call. And I was like, this gave me a little bit because, it was just emotionally exhausting. So, eventually I told her, and, she's one of the most supportive people I have in my life, so that was good. And she had asked if I wanted her to call her mom, which is my step-grandma. And my step-grandma, Carol, has always been, super supportive of me just, as a person. But she doesn't know that I'm trans, so I was and she was like, she'll be supportive, blah, 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 it might help you, might ease some of your worries. And I was like, yeah, but not right now, because I'm just, too emotional right now. So, anyway, I'm sitting there chatting with her, and my sister texted me. She's like, where'd you go? And I was like, I went to Jamie's, just to let you know, I told Dad, if that's blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, he just told Mom. And, that is not the way I wanted this to go down. I was planning on telling my dad first because I thought my mom would block me telling my dad. So I was like, this is, I was, kind of pissed off. I was like, well, it was, two things. I was, one, relieved because, after I told my dad, I was, relieved. Yeah, I was like, I have to do this all over again with my mom. And that's, not what I, just not really what I wanted to do. I obviously wanted to do it, but it was just exhausting. But then another part of me was like, this was my thing to tell. This was my opportunity to, be vocal about who I am, stand up for myself, advocate for myself. So I was kind of annoyed that kind of got taken away from me. Some people say that maybe that was a way of my dad protecting me because he knows my mom's reaction would likely be negative. So anyway, she found out, and, I texted her, and, I just kind of expected to have to be out of the house, so I was like, yeah, I'll move out tomorrow, I'm heading to Philly soon to see my girlfriend. I didn't tell her that, but I said I was heading out of town, and then I'd be back at school, so I could be out of the house, and she was like, well, I knew this was coming, but I had hoped that you would, grow out of it, or something like that. And I was just like, no. And she was like, why would you want to be a white male when you have so much hate for them? And, in a sense, she's kind of right about that because, I don't know. I have a lot of guilt associated with becoming a visibly white man and getting male privilege and stuff like that. And that's something that, I want to talk about in a video later. But, it was interesting that she threw that out there because, that's something I still have to process. And I have to find out, why do I want to how am I going to deal with becoming a white, cis-looking male? Especially since I'm going into a male-dominated field. So there's a lot of guilt associated with that. I kind of try to mitigate that with being really open about my trans identity and, obviously now, I don't really pass, and it's not, necessarily a huge goal of mine, but I kind of always want to be open about my trans identity in places that I feel like I'm safe to do so. So yeah, I mean, things are tense right now. At home, I'm not at home anymore. I'm at school, which is good. Like, I definitely need that time away. They need that time away from me. But I want to, like, convey to them that I'm not, like, telling them and then running away. I'm trying to respect their space and give them time to process. I scheduled my intake appointment, so it's in 2 weeks. It's on January 28th. At Planned Parenthood, and it's informed consent, so I'm getting my blood work done that day, and then if I want the first injection, I get the first injection. And as of now, I'm thinking I want that first injection. I still have a lot more people to tell, family-wise, that I've kind of been putting off just because of just trying to, like, emotionally settle before I get that revved up again, and try to play it as best as I can. But yeah, I think I'll be starting T on the 28th, which I'm obviously excited about, but hopefully that I kind of plan it well enough so that I can tell the people that need to know before too many changes start kicking in, which I know it'll be slowish. So I'm not too worried about that. I've been super distracted with things. I'm taking a really long, week-long exam right now. And my every waking moment is filled thinking about these really complex chemistry questions. So maybe that's a good thing, but also, like, I'm a little worried because, like, I haven't had too much time to process. Like, I told my parents I didn't sleep at all the night I told them. I was so afraid. I don't really know what I was afraid of, but maybe some backlash. But I was so afraid that night, and then the following night I finally slept. And that morning I left for Philly, and I stayed with my girlfriend in Philly until Sunday night, and then Monday morning I drove back up to school, and today is Saturday, so I've been here a week. And I started immediately that morning. I was doing lab work, and I was taking the exam. So between, like, spending a lot of time with my girlfriend before she goes to Africa for 5 months, and this exam, like, I haven't had too much time to really process. And I'm a little bit worried about the backlash of that because it was a very, very emotional 3 days and then tapered off. I mean, I did process it a little bit, but it's been concerning me how much I haven't processed it. But yeah, I mean, the semester's kind of getting underway. It starts on Tuesday, so I have a little bit of time. I haven't really figured out how exactly I'm going to play much of it out because I'm taking a queer theory class, and I've already established that I'm going by Xander and masculine pronouns in that class. But in my science classes, I already know the professors pretty well, and, like, some of them just don't really... I'm only going to know them for another 3 months, so they don't really need to know that I'm trans. I'm like, it's starting to become, like, burdensome to tell people. Like, I just feel like it's like, yeah, and I'm trans. Can you use these pronouns? Can you use this name that you've never heard of before? And, like, I don't know, like, I just kind of wish I could just send out, like, a mass memo. And that's what I was planning on doing on Facebook, sending out that mass memo. But I need to tell my grandparents who have Facebook, before I do that. It's, like, a respect thing. I'm, like, really close to my grandparents, so, hopefully I'll get that underway. But it doesn't bother me too much to be misgendered, and my birth name used. A lot of my friends call me Al, which comes from my birth name, but is masculine, so that doesn't bother me. And some professors do that just because they hear my friends doing that. some professors still call me by my birth name because they have no idea, and it's not malicious in any way. They just haven't been notified. But I don't really know if it's worth notifying them, so I'm going to see where that goes. I'm going to see how much of that kind of doesn't sit with me or does sit with me. I'm a little concerned about the fact that I graduate in May, and if I start T in 2 weeks, some of those changes might be a little noticeable. But as being like a senior in college, like I really just kind of want to start fresh as Xander in grad school. So I don't know. I'm not one that really likes to explain themselves, so I don't know. Maybe that means something more than the fact that I've just like got too much shit on my plate and too much time to have to emotionally be processing every time I come out. But yeah, I mean, most things are good. Just kind of working through things. I really, really love when people call me Xander. My girlfriend calls me Zandy, and I love it so much. It makes me just makes me just so happy. It's just cute. So, you know, when people do that, like, and they see me kind of like light up, I think they do get it. Most of my friends try, but you know, they're working with it. And if they're not calling me Xander, they're calling me Al. So it doesn't like, calling me Al doesn't make me dysphoric. Calling me Xander makes me really happy. So, you know, it's kind of a whatever. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, I'm generally excited about things, and I'll probably make a video after my first tee shot, if that happens to be the 28th. Or maybe if I have a little bit more processing to do before then, if anything comes up, I'll make a video. And then after that, I'll kind of just be update videos. But there's a couple things that I do really want to talk about. Mainly, like, a lot of guilt I have associated with becoming a white man. Interestingly, I go to kind of an all-women's college. My degree will be from an all-women's college, so I'll talk a little bit about how navigating that is and how I feel about having a degree from a women's college. And then maybe a little bit about grad school and how I'm planning to navigate that environment and how being a trans guy has kind of influenced where I want to go to grad school and all that stuff. So this was really long, and I apologize for that, but it had been a while since my last video, so, you know, I will probably see you or do an update in about 2 weeks when I get my first tee shot, so thanks.